Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
As you reflect on your life's work, what will you remember most? How much money you saved during your life, or how much fun you had spending the money you had worked so hard to save?
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the WorryFree Retirement, with your host, nationally recognized retirement specialist and six-time author and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
We opened our show today with this provocative question, a serious question for savers to ponder. Yet, as serious as this question might be, and one that we should all ask ourselves, is often omitted by advisors who do not really understand the real world of what I call the retirement planning process. You see, what I've found in working with thousands of savers is this. It's really difficult to think clearly about enjoying the things in life that money can buy if you don't face the reality of one day having less time on your side to enjoy the money you've worked so hard to save. I mean, what is the point in saving all this money if you wait too long to spend it? As for me, concerned over witnessing clients with no game plan to spend and enjoy their money is one reason that back in 2003, I wrote my first book on retirement, which attempted to bridge this gap of being serious about planning and saving for the future versus making sure to have fun with your money along the way. And this is why today I'll explain how to do just that. Welcome, folks, to the WorryFree Retirement. And yes, I am that little man in the sweater vest, retirement planning specialist and fiduciary, Tony Walker. And today we're going to show you how you can both be serious about your money in retirement, as well as how to help you use and enjoy the money before it's too late. But before we get started, let me introduce two young lads who are both serious and having fun at the same time. America's favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Orander, and Louisville, Kentucky's most laid-back graphics artist, Mr. Derek Hudson. Okay, there you sit, getting ready to watch for yet another time, or maybe for the first time, this little man in a sweater vest tackle one of the most dreadful topics imaginable: death. It's a topic which, while not pleasant to talk about, will happen to all of us, so my thoughts, why not talk about it? And seeing as though my firm, Tony Walker Financial, currently serves the needs of more than 3,000 savers, most of whom are retired, with many of them well into the second half of life, why would anyone neglect an open and honest discussion about one's own mortality? Why would you not want a game plan in place to enjoy this money before you die? You know, this reality of having to face one's mortality serves as a vivid reminder of why savers save for the future, which is hopefully one day they can spend what they've worked so hard to save. Yet if you wait too long to enjoy your money and you or a partner dies, well, it's game over. This truth hit home for me personally last week when I went with 5 different clients of Tony Walker Financial who all had recently lost their spouse. After visiting with them and assisting them with the claim paperwork to move their money over into their names, I was reminded of why I wrote my recent best-selling book, Live Well, Die Broke, so that I could remind people of 2 very important truths. Number 1, you can't take it with you. And number 2, as you get older, you will actually spend less and less money. And seeing as though there are 10,000 people turning 65 each and every day, you better believe that the financial world has their financial sights set on the trillions of dollars available to savers who are trying to figure out who to trust with it. So let's get serious about this topic of how best to use and enjoy your money during retirement, at least as we focus on how to keep the cost down while doing it. And then we're going to look at what messages are coming to you from the financial world, trying to convince you that they have all the answers to life's most difficult financial questions. I'm going to talk about this through a Tony in the Trenches. Interesting, came to us from Steve out of Shelbyville. It says, Tony, I recently responded to an ad I heard on the radio about how to invest my 401k to create tax-free retirement income by using life insurance as the source of that income. What are the potential pitfalls of this strategy? Well, where this stems from, and again, there is some merit to this idea of using life insurance for tax-free retirement income, but as we're going to see on the whiteboard in a minute, this is a really dangerous thing that people are doing because most people don't understand the potential pitfalls. So where does this come from? Well, the first book I want to talk about is called Becoming Your Own Banker, written by Nelson Nash, who I've studied under years ago. It's a well-written book, and it's the idea of using life insurance to finance many things for yourselves. Again, if you know what you're doing with this, this can be a valid point. Then the next book that came out recently called Tax-Free Retirement Income. Again, same concept. It can be used for tax-free retirement, and this gentleman's talking about Index Universal Life. What I'm going to do is talk about the pros and cons of both and how you better be careful with some of these illustrations that many agents are sharing and why this can be actually the downfall of your retirement if you don't know what you're doing. So let's go over to the whiteboard here. And what I've labeled this as is the cost of tax-free income. Now, this may sound like an oxymoron. You're saying, well, how could you have a cost with tax-free? Well, what a lot of people are doing is they're saying, okay, why wouldn't you take a 401k, let's say? Let's just imagine that. So I've got my 401k here, this tax-infested thing, and let's say it's worth $500,000, and there's no way to get out of the taxes, and you're trying to figure out a way to get tax-free income. Well, it's impossible. You can't do it, folks. But what you could do, maybe you pull out whatever, $20,000 a year, and you would have to pay the tax now if you did that. But what you're going to do is you're going to fund a life insurance policy. Now, you could do a lump sum, but that's not going to really help you in the long run. But what most people do is they fund it over time. Then at some point in retirement, they're going to stop funding it, turn right around and start taking money out of the life insurance policy tax-free. And again, I'll show you that in a second. But remember, you have to calculate the cost to get the money out in the first place. You got to come up with the money somewhere on the taxes. Then if you're going to invest it in life insurance, what's going to happen is you've got to understand the provisions of the contract and how that can come back to bite you. And all these taxes you think you're saying, you might pay the taxes a second time around. So you got to be really careful with this. So let's talk about the two types of policies. Nelson Nash's book, I'll abbreviate it, DPWL, which stands for Dividend Participating Whole Life. This is the type of insurance I have on myself. I'm not going to use it for tax-free retirement income, though. I'm not going to take that chance with it. I'll share with you how I use my life insurance for planning purposes in retirement. By the way, folks, there's really only three types of life insurance. There's term life insurance, which usually has very little application in retirement planning, not used a whole lot. There's dividend participating whole life insurance, and then there's universal life or index universal life. Those would be the three types. Okay, dividend participating life. Then the next one that the tax-free retirement book is talking about, and I'll put UL, that stands for universal life. So indexed universal life. So what's happening here is what people are saying is you take this money out, you pay the tax on it, and you funnel it into these policies. Now, I'm going to share with you my life insurance policy that I have. Aaron's going to put this up full screen. I'm going to walk through it. So in my dividend participating whole life, which again, I'm not using for tax-free retirement income, but I took this out at age 50, and at that time it had a death benefit of $500,000. And this is called paid up addition. See, this is a difference between whole life and universal. So those dividends that are paying every year on my contract, I've told the company to leave them with the company and buy even more insurance. Now, as a result of that, what's happened is now we're 13 years into the contract. Let's put these up full screen, Aaron. My cash value on my policy, again, I've been paying almost $30,000 a year into this, so I've funded a lot of money into this contract, is now up to $387,000, which I could borrow from that if I wanted to. I'm not going to do that for income. But look at this. This is the power of the contract. The death benefit, okay, I know I'm going to die at some point. This is the serious side of planning, is right now right at $1 million. And that is tax-free when, not if, tax-free when I die. So let's walk through this a minute. And you say, well, Tony, how's that helping you in retirement? Well, what happens is if I have a dividend participating whole life policy, which I've overfunded, and I have this death benefit that just keeps growing. In fact, if we go out to age 70 based on current dividends, if I just keep pouring money into it, the cash value is going to be $718,000. And look at this, the death benefit is going to be almost $1.4 million. But let's imagine I'm 63 years of age now. My father was actually in a nursing home at age 63 and died shortly thereafter. It could happen. So what if I went into a nursing home and my wife needs the money? Is she going to borrow it from this tax-free, or could she use other assets? What I've told Susan to do, let's say that were to happen and she needs $12,000 a month to keep me alive in a nursing home. I said, honey, just spend the money. And she goes, well, that doesn't sound like it's a very smart move. What am I going to do spending all this money? Because when I die, not if I die, when I die, the $1 million will come to you tax-free immediately, no probate, no gimmicks, no catches, immediately to replace all the assets you just had to spend, which is why I don't have long-term care insurance. I don't need it. We've got asset replacement insurance. And by the way, here's the book. I put this up full screen here, and you might want to order this book because it gets into this very idea. We'll talk about the next segment. How do we use the money now? How do we keep from running out of money in retirement? And if we want to, how can we leave a tax-free legacy to our family, which this policy does. But again, I am not using it for tax-free retirement income. It has some pitfalls to do that. The Index Universal Life is pretty scary. And I heard a gentleman speak at a conference really pitching this to agents. They were enthralled with it. The fella did not understand these policies. In fact, let me go through this. If you're looking at an illustration on any life insurance and you're using loans, you're going to borrow against its cash value for income, let me show you what can happen. So we had an insurance company we represent run an illustration showing someone paying $25,000 a year in premium into an Index Universal Life policy for a period of 10 years. After that, we show them turning around and taking nearly that much out each year for tax-free retirement income by way of a policy loan, which is non-taxable to them, hence the term tax-free retirement income that guy was talking about. However, notice the net death benefit and cash value both depleting. Now, that's a problem for a few reasons. Of course, there will no longer be any tax-free death benefit for your family at your death. But here's the problem. If the policy lapses, you'll also find yourself in a major taxable event. On the right, you can see that it will take upwards of a 7% rate of return for this policy to hold up over the long term. But from my experience, something more realistic to illustrate would be 3 or 4% return, which again is not able to keep up with the loans, probably not worth 10 years of distributions as well. So what are we saying with all this? Well, the key is you got to get serious about tax planning, but this may not be the best way to go. So if you're thinking about something like this, you're hearing people about how to save on taxes and how to create tax-free income. Before you make that leap of faith and do something down the road you might regret, why don't you do this? Why don't you contact us at TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Let's get started with a free 10-minute fiduciary phone call to see if something like this really fits your situation or whether you might need a more comprehensive look at your entire retirement picture that we can provide you at Tony Walker Financial. Okay, when we come back, the next big serious thing to think about is, okay, Tony, this all sounds well and good. Let's forget the tax-free retirement income. My biggest worry is the worry of most other Americans. How in the world am I going to keep from running out of money if I live a long time and at the same time use and enjoy what I've got? I'll answer that question when we come back. I'm Tony Walker. Stay tuned. More Whiteboard coming your way. I'll be right back. In the financial world, advisors are often divided between two categories: money managers or annuity specialists. My question is, why not have both? At Tony Walker Financial, we specialize in investments and securing guaranteed income you can never outlive. You know, we're more than just annuities. So if you're retired or retiring soon, why don't you give us a call or log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and let's get started. Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. That last segment, one of the things I wanted to point out, and this is why things like the tax-free retirement income concept are becoming so popular, is this graphic right here, which we cover on the show a lot. It's what we call the tax bracket creep, which basically means the more you make, the more they take. And what a lot of people are worried about and what a lot of financial folks are kind of casting fear on is this idea that in 2025, the current tax laws expire, and obviously they could go up. They could go up. That means you need a plan, but sometimes what you don't want to do is invest your money aggressively in a tax planning plan that may or may not actually save you on taxes. It's the plan itself not always the product that's going to save you on taxes. I just want to make sure we are well aware of this. All right. Now, next week, we're going to talk about, today it's been in the serious side, but next week we're going to talk about the fun side of life and money, because let's face it, while we all need to be serious about our money, we need a plan and a philosophy in place that reminds us to have fun with this money before it's too late. For the savers I meet and work with, money isn't just a means to an end. It's their symbol of money and their work and their hard work and dedication and unwavering commitment to providing for themselves and their loved ones that makes all of this worthwhile. It's the tangible reward for the countless hours spent toiling away at their jobs, which is the fruits of their labor, which have been over the years carefully nurtured and safeguarded, so again, that one day they can spend this money that they've saved for so many years. And I'm not talking about the worries that come along with things like inflation, nor the worries over how much in taxes you're going to have to pay now or in the future. And no, it's not the worries over all those unnecessary fees and risk that I witness many savers taking with their money in retirement, all of which are legitimate worries, for sure. But to me, as someone who specializes in retirement planning, the greatest fear of them all is savers, that's right, one day running out of money in retirement. At some point, we must admit that no one knows how long we might live and when we're going to die. So if that's the case, and assuming there was a financial product that has proven to guarantee an income you could never outlive, why in the world would you not want to know about such a product? Well, of course, you would say, hopefully yes. Well, this product does exist. It's been around for over a century, and it is one that I have placed nearly $600 million of my clients' money into. It's called an annuity. Funny, while for years Wall Street and many other financial pundits have bashed these annuities, but now we see more and more advisors are being told to sell them. Why? Because annuities, again, are the only products that can provide this guaranteed income for life. So what I thought we would do is we'd go over to the whiteboard and let's take a careful observation of these annuities and actually how they work and the actual types that we use. Now, for years, I've talked about annuities. In fact, there's a great little book I've written called Annuities Made Easy, which I would encourage you to order. And for years, I've talked about the 4 different types. That's true. But what I've done now is categorize these annuities into the planning software in the process. And I think this is going to really help you understand that there's 3 different categories of annuities and how those categories can help you depending on when you need money and how the overall game plan is set up with someone like Tony Walker Financial. So the first type is what we call short-term accumulation, okay? Short-term accumulation. And these can either be fixed interest or fixed indexed. Again, we do not do variable annuities due to the risk and fees. We like to have guarantees and certainty. And with almost all of these short-term accumulation annuities, the beauty is there are no fees. So if we place one of these within an income plan, we get a commission paid to us by the insurance company. But the beauty is for you, the principal's guaranteed, and it's 5 years or less. Okay, so in 5 years or less, depending on the contract, you can take all of this money out at the end of the term without penalty. So when we set an income plan up, we use these a lot, and this works really, really well. Currently, as of the date of this recording, a 5-year fixed interest annuity is paying around 5 1/4. That's pretty darn good. That's guaranteed for 5 years. You can have the interest sent to you or just let it accumulate. The second category of annuities is long-term accumulation. So the definition of long-term accumulation is 5 to 10 years. All right. And there are times when you might say, well, why would I want to tap my money for 5 to 10 years? Well, the insurance companies know if they've got that money obligated a little longer. In most cases, they can pay interest longer, they can guarantee interest longer, or if it's a fixed index annuity, it's something called participation rates. We call them par rates. More than likely, they're going to be a lot higher. So what we'll do in the income planning software, in some cases, depending on the size of the case we're working on, we may use both short-term and long-term accumulation annuities, put that with our Charles Schwab platform within our split IRA, and then we meld those together and we can use different tactics and strategies with these annuities. This is where the expertise comes in, and you're going to see, folks, you just can't run out and start throwing all your money in one type of annuity without this game plan. So we could use one, or we may not use either one of these, it just depends, but a lot of times we'll use both, and it really helps us in the planning process. Now, the one that's the most popular in terms of retirement planning and what you're starting to see more and more offered. I call them income annuities. This is where we get our beloved
mailbox money.
So this particular annuity is geared really, the best way to think of this, for the rest of your life. Anything that's going to pay, quote, a guaranteed income or a very large bonus. We have a company right now in an income annuity. They're paying a 40% bonus up front. Well, I can guarantee if they're going to put 40% money in there, an insurance company, folks, it ain't free. There's a catch, but there are some situations that will use that product. We have some that are paying a guaranteed interest rate of 7%. And you say, well, how in the world can they do that? Well, again, it's a long-term contract. There are certain stipulations to get that money back. The insurance company knows this. So again, you just have to really be careful in investing in these various annuities, especially if you do not have a written game plan from someone like Tony Walker Financial. So that's you right now. Maybe you're sitting there saying, Tony, yeah, I am worried about running out of money. I'm tired of investing all my money in the stock market. I just had my bond portfolio crash last year. I want to learn more about how to use these annuities within that split IRA concept you keep talking about. The beauty is there is no cost or obligation to talk to me, the owner of the company, about your situation. We call it the free 10-minute fiduciary phone call to get started. Just log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. You're going to click on that Let's Get Started. Our office will arrange a phone call between you and myself, and if it warrants, myself or one of our highly trained salaried fiduciaries will be happy to meet with you to provide a free written game plan at no cost or obligation at either our Bowling Green, Louisville, or Lexington, Kentucky offices. So do it now. Log on right now. Take control of your finances or simply give us a call on the toll-free number on your screen. Well, speaking of controlling things, I'm going to share an incident that occurred on vacation recently with something that I believe God allowed me to experience that reminded me that, you know what? It's really not about the money. I'm Tony Walker. I'll be right back.
Did you know that you can watch the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money anytime you want? The show's called The WorryFree Retirement. It's hosted by Tony Walker, and it's available on YouTube. All you got to do is go to youtube.com and right there in the search bar, type in Tony Walker Financial, and you'll see Tony's smiling face. Click on that and you're going to find all types of video content. Again, that's youtube.com, Tony Walker Financial.
Our Bible segment starts with my own personal live well, die broke moment that occurred just a few days ago while vacationing in sunny Destin, Florida. Now, assuming you watch this show with any regularity, you know that I am someone who possesses a crazy sleep schedule, which includes on many a night waking up at 2 or 3 in the morning, wide awake, mind you, and getting out of bed to see what the morning has in store. On this particular mid-morning wake-up call in a random condo in Destin, Florida, I awoke from my sleeping slumber and decided to sit on the 9th floor balcony of our condo and listen to the waves crash upon the beach below us, when, all of a sudden, I see this. Now, this light show of sorts, which by the way was accompanied by no thunder or heavy clapping sounds one might have assumed would accompany it, proceeded to captivate my attention for the next 30 minutes. And as it did, my thoughts began to focus on the seriousness of God and His power, and, well, to say this was a powerful spiritual experience would have been an understatement. In fact, after watching this continuous light show, which made my midsummer fireworks display at our local neighborhood look like a picnic, I was so moved by it that I scurried back into the condo to grab my Bible to see what others might have said about similar experiences as I just had. Like the prophet Jeremiah, who in chapter 10, verses 12 and 13 had this to say, "But God made the earth by His power. He founded the world by His wisdom and stretched out the heavens by His understanding. When He thunders, the waters in the heavens roar. He makes clouds rise from the ends of the earth. He sends lightning with the rain and brings out the wind from His storehouses." King David felt the same way, where in Psalms 136, 5 through 9 he states, Who by his understanding made the heavens? His love endures forever. Who spread out the earth upon the waters? His love endures forever. Who made the great lights? His love endures forever. The sun to govern the day? His love endures forever. The moon and stars to govern the night? His love endures forever. By the way, it is not just this verse of Scripture that confirms that God's love endures forever. There are countless scriptures affirming the same sentiment, all focused on God and His love that never fades away. And regardless of whether you believe as I do in God's sovereignty over the things of the world, it would be my hope today that this little video recorded at around 3 a.m. on a random ninth store balcony in Destin, Florida, might serve as a reminder and encouragement to you that no matter how much this world appears to be in a tailspin, no matter how worried you are about the economy and the price of eggs, and yes, no matter whether you've lost the love of your life, remember, dear friend, God's love for you and I will never be shaken, and it endures forever. And that's some good news you and I can take to the bank. Amen? Okay, I admit it. Today's show has dealt with the seriousness of not having a plan for your future and ultimately what's at stake if you don't. Which is why right now, you don't have to drift off to sleep not knowing what will happen to your money and how best to use and enjoy it before it's too late. There is an option, and it's absolutely free and comes to you at no obligation. We call it the free 10-minute fiduciary phone call, where you and I will talk for just a few minutes to see if we can be of help, to get more control over your money with a firm that's been working with savers for years. So, assuming you're retired, nearing retirement, and you do not have a written game plan provided to you by a trained retirement planning specialist, let's get started. Just log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, click on that Let's Get Started button. You will be confidentially contacted and we will arrange a phone call. That's right, yours truly and yourself will talk about your situation, and if it warrants, if we need to meet in person, we can certainly do that at either our Bowling Green, Louisville, or Lexington, Kentucky offices. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com, or give us a call at the toll-free number on your screen. Well, next week, great show coming up. We covered the seriousness of retirement planning today, but next week, we're going to talk about how to have more fun in retirement and how to better use and enjoy this money before it's too late. But you remember, between now and next week, if all else fails, you be worry-free and make it a good one.